The way that you buy a home is getting ready to completely change. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned buyer, an investor, or a veteran, here are the facts that you need to know. Today, whenever you go to purchase a home, you pick up your phone and you call your realtor and you ask to go see properties 1, 2, and 3. Today, a buyer representation agreement is not required in order to do that. Mid-August of 2024, all home buyers will be required to have a signed buyer representation agreement with their realtor before you may access properties. So what is a buyer representation agreement? It is a binding document between the buyer and the buyer's realtor outlining the partnership, roles, and responsibilities, and the fee structure associated with the realtor's representation of the buyer. Okay, Willa, so as my buyer's agent, how am I supposed to know as the buyer how much a seller is willing to contribute to help me pay your fee? The answer is there will be more legwork for your realtor to proactively understand by phone calls, by email, with the listing agents for house 1, 2, and 3 that you want to see how much the seller is willing to contribute. And then you as the buyer have some decisions to make, because the buyer representation agreement is an agreement that outlines your partnership with your realtor and how much that partnership for professional representation is going to cost you. In today's world, there are many states that have always used the buyer representation agreement, but also in today's world, sellers most generally, in partnership with their listing agent, will contribute to some or all of the buyer's realtor's fee. And that contribution, whatever that percentage is included on the multiple listing service, which is then syndicated to major public sites like Zillow.com, Realtor.com, and Redfin. In the new world, one of the major changes is there will be no more advertisement of what the seller is willing to contribute. This does not mean the seller won't contribute. This is a very important fact and something that is miscommunicated in the media. This does not mean a seller will not contribute. It simply means that contribution will no longer be advertised. So as a buyer, why wouldn't I just bypass my own realtor and go straight to the listing agent? Can't they just write me an offer? The answer is yes, they absolutely can. Here's the thing that is misunderstood. The buyer representation agreement that is required in any transaction. So that listing agent is going to say, sure, I'll write you an offer, but you have to sign this buyer agency representation agreement with me that outlines my responsibilities and my fees. So the representation agreement does not go away by not having your own representation, and the fee structure for that agent doesn't go away by not having your own representation. So in this case, why wouldn't you just have your own representation? Because here's what happens. That type of transaction is called a dual agency. A dual agency transaction is when the listing agent represents both the buyer and the seller. In the state of Arkansas, dual agency is legal. In some other states, it isn't. There are some disclaimers associated with entering into a dual agency transaction. They are associated with fiduciary responsibilities, not being individual. They are associated with the amount of communication that a listing agent can have between a seller and a buyer. They're also associated to conflict of interest. So in essence, the best way I can summarize dual agency and the listing agent's role is they represent both parties and therefore they are a mediator in the transaction versus offering independent representation of both parties. So to recap, the two major changes coming mid-August for buyers and realtors. One, seller's contribution to a buyer's realtor fee can no longer be advertised in the multiple listing service or any other public sites that receive their information from the multiple listing service. Two, a buyer representation agreement must be signed between any realtor and a buyer before properties can be shown. It is more important than ever for home buyers to identify the right lender. Over the course of the last several months, the lending industry has developed programs, tools, and resources to help home buyers navigate the change that is coming in just a few weeks. That change is absolutely financially impacting for home buyers. In addition to that, it is super important if you want your own independent professional representation by a licensed realtor to help you navigate the home buying process and have your best interest at heart. To find a realtor who is seasoned, knowledgeable, and experienced in contract negotiations. If you would like to know more about the changes that are coming, please comment below